I'm Amanda, and this is Not Your Granny's Quilt Show. Hey, everybody. I'm so glad you're here today. Welcome back to the show. Today, I have Zachariah. He owns Sewlarium. It's a quilt shop, sewing shop located in Portland, Oregon. So if you're a Portland area person, you can go shop in person. Otherwise, he's got an online shop as well. I've just been following him since he very first opened his shop about a year ago and just seeing the growth and love his perspective on, just what fabrics he carries and the things that he offers. And I've just wanted to chat with him for a while. So I'm so glad Zachariah is on the show. Um, he's got a great story, and I'm just so excited for you guys to hear it. So let's jump in. Hi, Zachariah. How are you?
Great. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well. Thank you for asking. I'm so happy to have you here. This is fun.
Yeah, I'm super honored to be here. It's really cool that people care about what I'm doing here.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm just over in Boise, so we're not that far from each other.
Right.
Um, the Idaho is like, what do we call it? Like the Pacific Northwest ugly little stepsister. Um, Idaho's like, me too, and Oregon and Washington are like, no, not you. But it's it's been fun to see your shop come to life, and I've followed you from early on, like right when you were opening, and just seeing the growth that's happened over this last little while. And so I was really excited to be able to talk about it with you today.
Yeah, it's been a lot. The shop has just kind of been this pipe dream I have, and then it's really gotten away from me and snowballed into this real thing. And yeah, it's cool to look back. I kind of like having that internet archive of what I was doing and trying to remember what I was thinking at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always fun to like have it kind of come back and go, "Oh yeah, that's like just know where you started from." And because I think especially owning a business, like you just put your head down and you just one foot in front of the other. But when you can have the opportunity to look back and go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that's how things used to be."
Right.
But well, before we dive into more about your shop, I want to know how you even got into quilting in the first place.
Yeah, and it's it's hard to say. I have a long background in sewing and sewing professionally,
Hmm.
but I didn't get into quilting really until pretty recently. I think first and foremost, I fell in love with the fabric. I
Yeah.
worked at this giant fabric store, Fabric Depot, and that's when I really became aware of quilting cottons and started following all these designers and really fell in love, I'd say, first with Alexander Henry and then Tula Pink and then Cotton and Steel. I didn't really know the designers' names at that point, but that's where it started. And I really wasn't interested in quilts. So it always became my mission to figure out how do I effectively use lightweight cotton for just everything.
Yeah.
So I have an extensive knowledge of interfacings is how that works.
Yeah.
Um, but I really kind of started my career as an upholsterer.
Oh,
I I could sew, and I let's just start at the beginning. I
yeah.
bought my first sewing machine off of the Home Shopping Network and paid for
Really?
it with Flex Pay. They just
Yeah.
made it look so cool.
Hmm.
Um, and I was in college at the University of Nebraska, and I was studying fine arts, and I was doing book arts and printmaking
Mm.
primarily. And so I was figuring out how to incorporate sewing and embroidery into the book arts aspect of it. But mostly I was just messing around and I was making weird stuffed animals just poorly out of cut up clothing.
Yeah.
And then I moved out to Portland, and the person I was dating at the time offered me up as someone who like could do upholstery because they knew I could sew. So like, yeah, he
Yeah.
can do upholstery. I could not do upholstery, and so I just had to fake it so heavily, and I had to just do a tremendous amount of very studious research to continue this lie so I could have any kind of income.
Gosh.
Um, so, and I did that effectively for quite a long time. Um, and once I kind of realized that, like, hey, upholstery is this thing you can do, but do, do you maybe hate it?
Yeah.
Like, uh,
Do you
that's
maybe
when
hate
I
it?
Well, it's
Yeah.
just I was one gray sofa away from losing my mind. I was
Yeah.
one gray anything away from losing my mind.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I was like, okay, what can we do instead? And there was the Fabric Depot,
Hmm.
and they really wanted me because I had all this upholstery knowledge by then. Um, and so that's what put me into this environment with all these great fabrics. And I didn't actually end up making a quilt until my father passed,
Hmm.
and my mother kind of asked me if I could make some kind of memorial object out of his like Hawaiian shirts that he wore.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like I've been sewing forever. I'm pretty sure I can put together a quilt. And so I designed and made this quilt, but that was kind of the first time I'd ever done it.
Hmm.
And then I took that to be long armed, and I had it custom quilted,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Hey, that is sure a lot of money I just gave someone. How could I reverse these roles? Because maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing instead of upholstery."
Right.
Um, and so then I got a long arm, and so I just kind of let it snowball from there. And then I had this long arm, and it's like, well, I need quilt tops to practice on. So I started making quilt tops, and I could tell my customers hate it when I say this, but I only assemble quilt tops in like this very begrudging way.
Yeah. I'm
Like
the same
it's
way though.
I want it, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers about kind of how this all happened.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy because you're right. Like it does just snowball. It's like one day you're not a quilter and the next day you have a long arm. And that's kind of how it was for me too. Like I I didn't start like actually sewing or learning how to quilt until I was like already in my 30s and my friends forced me. And then a year later, my mom and I took the long arming like, rental course from our local quilt shop to learn how to, use the machine so we could rent them to free motion our own quilts. And then within that, like by that summer, we were like in Utah buying one from a quilt show. We were like, screw this, we're just getting our own. So it
Yep.
just like within a year and a half of learning to even just piece a quilt top, period, like we had a long arm and started a business. And I was like, wow, that was crazy. But I laugh about the upholstery because like my mom has always sewn and she's always done little side jobs of like, altering clothes for people. She would always make like my formal dresses and stuff. But then she gets hired every once in a while to like make like foam cushions or recover like patio furniture. And she's always just like, why do I say yes to this every time? And then every time I'm like, if I do this again, slap me and tell me not to because I hate it so freaking much. She's just like, oh, it's a lot of
You
work.
can't escape it.
No,
Um, there's it's why she says yes. It's the money.
exactly.
Upholstery costs so much money to have done.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's the same thing with me. I keep getting roped into these projects, and it's like, huh, I quit doing upholstery like a decade ago, and yet I'm still doing upholstery. Like
Right. I
how are
know.
these two things true?
Like I can, but do I want to? And yeah, it's like s- I mean, yeah, there's money, but then it's like your sanity at the same time. Is it worth it? But yeah, I totally get that. That's so funny. So yeah, do you just like were you just long arming like doing custom work in free motion or did you get a computerized setup?
Mine is entirely hand guided.
Okay.
And so I work off paper panographs
Hmm.
and do mostly edge to edge for my clients.
Okay.
Because yeah, my free motion skill, it's not where I want it to be.
Hmm.
Uh, and maybe it never will be, and maybe that's the problem. Is that I'll always think it should be better. But so mostly for clients, I just do the edge to edge.
Yeah.
And whenever I do like a charity quilt, I'll do it all free motion, and it
Hmm.
always turns out better than I expected. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, yeah, the dream is getting that computer on there, but definitely that machine needs to start paying like a little more rent before I toss
Yeah.
that amount of debt on top of it.
Right. Yeah. What machine do you have?
I've got the Bernina Q20.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a nice machine.
Yeah, it's great. It's really, really smooth, but
Yeah.
Bernina, everything is so
I
expensive.
know. I know. I know. Yeah. It's the computer or like the system that comes with it when you do get a computer system is actually so nice too. So it's I've gotten to work with it a little bit at my local quilt shop and because they have like I have an APQS and that's also what they have, but then they're also a Bernina dealer, so they have a Bernina Q20 in the long arm studio. So I've gotten to play with it and it's a fun program. So that'll be fun when you eventually get there. But I totally get that. Like you're like, how do I pay this thing off first?
Right.
Because they are so spendy, but yeah, they drive like a dream, those Berninas. Like they're very smooth.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so nice. Yeah, so how like did you immediately start quilting for customers or did you give yourself a little grace period to figure it out first?
So what I did was I made everybody a quilt for Christmas right after I got it.
Okay.
Um, and so I sat down and just feverishly made the same quilt top like 5 times, quilted those just one after another.
Hmm.
And by the end of those, I had a pretty good handle on it. I just kind of really immersed myself in it and forced myself to figure things out. And I did it in this very controlled way where I was doing literally the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
So isolating those variables that were working and not working
Yeah.
was way easier because of that.
Yeah. Oh, I bet because you're not, setting and resetting a completely different pantograph on a completely different size quilt all the time. So if you're able to like work through the problems that way, that seems like such a good way to do it because it's that repetitive, I think, nature of learning that, especially something like setting up a paper pantograph, because you have to know like how that was a struggle, such a struggle for me. But then because I knew my computer program so well, when I went to like start teaching the long arming certification course and learning how to set up the pantograph, then I knew what I was like, oh, I understand now. But when I was learning before, like setting up a paper pantograph, I was like, I have no idea how this works. Like, I don't get it. So it's almost like that extra little time of like understanding how things work. And I'm sure if I had like a situation like you where I was just doing one class or one quilt after another, it might have been a different story, but I don't know. I just had given up on the paper pantograph idea super soon.
Yeah, and it's one of those things I see when I teach it, is people have a kind of hard time wrapping around how the quilt is advancing back and forth and how that relates to the table in the back,
Yeah.
because it isn't super intuitive.
Mm-mm.
But it's something that just like it clicks at some point.
Yeah.
Uh, and some people get it right away, and some people it takes 3 or 4 times. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around at first.
Hmm. Yeah. It's because you're on the backside of the machine and it's translating to your quilt top, but you're almost working like backwards. So
Hmm.
it's hard to imagine it. And I was the same way, like teaching it. There were some people who were like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. And other people who every time they came in to rent the machine, they'd be like, I need help. I'm like, I, I got you. This is fine. But
Yeah,
it does take some just like, yeah, understanding what's even going on and why you're making marks where you're making marks. And it's just
yeah.
it's wild, but it's fun. I'm not I mean, because I haven't practiced, I'm just gonna throw that in there. Because I haven't practiced, I'm not good at paper pantographs. But the people who are, I'm always just like, you have a special place in my heart because it's a lot of work. So do you teach like people to, or yeah, you said you teach. So do you rent out your long arm in your shop or
Yeah, I do.
okay.
Um, and that's honestly kind of turned into a majority of my income off the long arm, because running the shop, I don't have much time to do the quilting, and because I
Yeah.
don't have that computer that I can like send on its way and step away from it all.
Hmm.
um it is, you know often much better for me to have people who want to do it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Cause yeah, if you're the one having to stand over it, then you're stuck, right? You're like tethered to the machine essentially. So,
Which is great when it's slow, that I
mhm.
have something to do instead of just spinning out.
Right.
um but it never works that way.
No.
When I it's like I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll have a slow Thursday, because Thursdays are slow, so that's when I'll do this quilt. And it's like, second
Mhm.
you say something like that out loud, all the
Yeah.
customers are like, Thursday is the day to go there.
They're like, you know what? I feel like shopping. Yeah. It's like almost like, yeah, you put it out in the universe and it like echoes and then people hear it and they're like, I hear Zachariah calling me to his shop. You're like, no. I mean, yes, but no.
Yeah, I know, we got to coordinate better.
Right. You're like, how do I make this work to my advantage better? Because it is. It's like just when you think things are going to be calm for just a few minutes for you to like do something you want to do, that's when all hell breaks loose usually. But, you know, it's like you want the business, but also you want some downtime too.
Yeah, and it's so hard to find any balance once you start a business. it's
Yeah.
it's a whole nother task to find balance, and you have to do it though.
Hmm.
um because it's so easy to just get caught up in the work, because there's an endless amount of it, and you will never get to the end of that work. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah, being like, all right, I need some downtime from thing, and I need to schedule that downtime, and then I need to like force myself
Yeah.
to have that downtime.
Mhm.
uh
Yeah.
Insane. It's something I'm just barely learning after a good year of not knowing how to do that.
Well, when you're starting out too, it's hard because you're like, you don't just like open a business and then everything works perfectly, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. It's like
Right.
there's a lot of give and take in that beginning time because some days you're going to have 16-hour days and some days you're going to have 8-hour days and some days you're going to have 4-hour days and then the next day is going to be 18 hours. You just don't know when you're starting out and it's like yeah, finding that balance is so hard, but it can be it can still be tricky, even if like, I mean, I've had my business for almost 7 years now, and
Hmm.
it's still, there's still times where it's like a mad dash and I'm in my studio like 10 hours a day for all 7 days of the week. And then there's times where I'm like down there maybe a couple hours a day. And it's way different having a studio in my garage than having a full shop. But I think you kind of find balance where you can, and sometimes there's just like busy moments, and other times it's like really slow. So it's like you just have to take advantage of those slow times to just be like, okay, I'm gonna force myself to relax. Like
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so hard kind of like looking at it now and being like, what would I have realistically done differently?
hmm
Um, because I look at these other shops and I can't help but notice that they're oftentimes owned by two people instead of just one.
Yeah.
And I should have put that together.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the the shop that was my neighborhood shop, Modern Domestic, the
hmm
owner there kind of like warned me a little bit about the insanity that was about to ensue in my life.
Yeah.
Uh, and she was right. Uh,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, it's crazy how much support I get from the other shops.
hmm
Like there is not any strong sense of competition. Like most of what I don't know. I'd say like a lot of my success is the other shops sending people here, and I'll get people who come in and they're just like, "Oh, you must have such good karma in this community because every other shop has told us to come here." And it's like, "Oh yeah, that's great that I was a good enough customer that people are still looking out for me."
Right. I know. I love that. And I think, I mean, that's my perspective. If I'm going to be a good shop owner and service provider, I need to be willing to support the other businesses around me and not deter people from using other businesses. Like, because I think that that's poor customer service, honestly. Like, if
Right.
somebody's asking me for something and I'm just like, sorry, I don't have it, and I don't tell them where I know that they can get it, like, what am I doing?
Right.
They're gonna leave going, oh, she didn't help me at all, versus like, oh my gosh, she told me where to go. She told me exactly what store, what they have. I make it my business to understand what other businesses around me provide so that I can help people. Like, and I
Yeah, you
think,
have to.
yeah, because you can't be the one shop that carries literally everything. You can try, but it's really hard. And then,
Right.
there's always going to be gaps. And so if I love Modern Domestic. I've got friends in Portland, and every time I visit, I go fabric hunting because there's just so many good shops there. And I haven't been since you've opened your shop, so I'm really excited for the next time I go to Portland because I'm going to come see you. But um yeah, it's just like good vibes. Like people just seem so happy to be there, and there's something to be said for that because as the quilting community, as the fabric and sewing loving community, like we've got to have each other's backs or we won't survive.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, community in general is so important, and especially the places where community, exists in the real world.
Yeah.
Um, I think especially is a big one because we have this sense of these online communities, and what they provide is very real,
Yeah.
but we don't own them. You know,
Yeah.
Facebook groups, Instagram, someone else could shut down that website, and then it's you know
Yeah.
obvious what the difference between a network and a community. So yeah, these places where people physically meet, I think are just so important.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I, you know, I obviously feel some type of way about my local quilt shops because I'm in there all the time. And it's just, it's different. Yeah. It's like I have my online friends and I have my online community, and that's great. And I love them. And they've brought so much to my life. But being able to go somewhere in person and have that touch fabric and hug, the people who work at the shop and say hello and talk to them about their daily lives and know that I've got a place to go if all else fails, like it's just so nice. And I think it can be taken for granted sometimes, like, oh, I just order everything online. It's easy for sure, but like what are you missing? What
Right.
else are you missing out on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the online thing, it's so hard.
Mhm.
Obviously I've got all of my stuff online, and it's just because I have to, and it's like, oh God, but it's like this entire second store.
Right.
Um, Once again, there should have been two of me. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. You just don't know what you don't know, right?
right?
That's kind of how it is in business, I think. But uh, yeah, it's definitely can make a difference to have a second person around, but also, do you want to deal with the second person's opinions?
I know that's the thing. It's like, is this just another part of some control thing, some control issue I have?
Yeah, right. I know. And I am admittedly a control freak, so um I am the same way. I'm like, do I really want? I literally like bought my business out from my parents because I was like, I just need to do this by myself.
That seems fair.
Yeah. Yeah. They were like, oh, whatever. I was like, oh, as long as I can long arm, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, anytime. Come on over. But I just need to be the decider and that's it. But it's fine. So, okay, I want to rewind a tiny bit because you talked about your business being kind of a pipe dream and we talked about your long arming. So like where in that timeline, like you got your long arm and like when did the business kind of the idea start to be born?
Well, it's one of those things because I worked at Fabric Depot, it's always been in the back of my head. And I think it's in the back of a lot of creatives' heads, like, oh, maybe I could open a fabric store. Um, but I'm sure it was just some kind of perfect storm that threw it into existence. I remember kind of just being thrown into this feeling of, if I want this to happen, there is a finite amount of time in my life for it to happen in. And just having this feeling of, I, there isn't an eternity to do the things I want. Like, if I want to do them, I have to do them now. And I also kind of had a moment where I looked at my life and I looked at what I was doing, and maybe things I was spending energy on that weren't making me happy. And I
Mm,
was like, well, if there's this thing I want to do and I'm putting this energy into this just things that don't serve me at all,
right.
like, how what am I doing? Like,
Yeah.
so I remember having this moment where I realized that how I was acting was entirely out of alignment with how I saw myself as a creative and as a person. And in that moment, I was like, if I have any spare second and I'm not working on the dreams that I have, then I'm lying to myself about who I am. And that was
Yes.
kind of the piece that clicked, where it was just like, okay, so start making the steps, start doing anything every day,
Yeah.
to do something to work towards this thing. Otherwise, stop pretending that you're the person to do this,
Hmm.
um, or who can do this.
Yeah.
And so that, I guess, is what happened maybe a couple years ago, and I started being like, okay, so what does it take to
Hmm.
open a business? Um, and one of the biggest things that I just kind of stumbled into, I was I was working a job where I was making enough money to do some things, but it was also sucking all of my time. And so I started saying like, okay, I know I need a business plan. Can I pay somebody to write a business plan?
Hmm.
Because I don't have the time. Um, and not having the time was always my big excuse.
Yeah.
Um, and I was the reason I didn't have the time, which is a whole nother thing. Um, but so that's where it really got away from me when I found a company who would do all the market research and demographics of neighborhoods and wrote me up this business plan. Then I had this document that was so much more powerful than I knew it was.
Yeah.
Um, because it's incredible when you're looking into leasing a commercial space.
Hmm.
You can't just make a phone call. People will not talk to you.
They're like,
Uh,
who do you think you are?
yeah, like how many would-be coffee shop owners contact me every day, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But the
right.
second you start sending people like, hey, I want to look at this space, here's my business plan, they're,
Yeah.
they'll show you right now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and also, that business plan goes into dealing with banks and getting money.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's where it snowballed, was getting that document, and then all of a sudden I could look at places, and then all of a sudden I was looking at places, and
Right.
and then I was opening, like, and here we are a year or so later. Like I don't even know what's happened.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's funny how like we get in our own way so freaking much. Like
Oh yeah.
I just I my mindset has changed so much in just like the last like 7 or 8 years of going from like, I'm just barely learning how to quilt to like wanting to have a long arm. But I was like, okay, well, we could, talking with my mom, like we could long arm 4 people so that we could like make money back on it and make the payments because we're gonna have to finance it. Who has $36,000 in cash? Not this guy.
Right.
um, because we had thought about it for a total of like 3 months. But anyway, um, and they, my parents had this big basement, and they're like, we can just put it in the basement, like there'll be plenty of room, and just start with long arming, and we know some people that would use our services and just snowball from there, whatever. And I was teaching full time. So I was like in my career that I was like, I went to college for this. I'm going to die in the classroom. Like, this is where I'm going to be for the rest of my life, kind of thing. And the more the business kind of grew, and my mom was like mostly doing it by herself because I was working, and all this back and forth, I just like kept feeling this tug of like, why are you doing this thing that makes you miserable when you've got this other thing going that you could literally pour your heart and soul into and be so happy? And like, obviously there was other stuff. I'm not like saying, oh, the job is what makes you happy, but it just felt like there was just more, and the what ifs kept popping up in my head. And my husband was literally like, what is the worst that can happen? You quit your job, you do this for a little while, you realize you don't like it, you go back and get another job. Like, you are highly educated, you have a master's degree, like you're employable. um so like, what's the problem? And I was like, I'm scared.
Yeah, the uncertainty
Yeah.
that has to like take over your life for a little bit is
Yeah.
it's scary, it's overwhelming.
And if you don't trust yourself too, like that's a whole other hurdle to jump over, which was where I was at. I just did not trust myself. And through tons of therapy, we're here and we're trusting ourselves and we're doing great. And it's just a whole different perspective on things. But it's just wild, like what it takes to like, you just remove one little barrier of the like, I don't have time for this. It's like, well, how do I get time for this? Solution all of a sudden, it's like if you're focused on looking for solutions instead of being stuck in your own problems, it can open up a whole new world. But it's that ability to step around the problem you've created for yourself.
Right.
I'm speaking to myself because I do it all the time. I'm like, oh, this thing's in my way. And my husband's like, then move it. And I'm like, right. I forgot. I forgot I could do that. Um, so anyway, so yeah, I totally get that. And you're right. Like a business plan is it's everything. It's everything. And there's cool templates and you can try to do it on your own, but if you have like a team who knows what they're doing, put it together, ironclad.
Well, that's the funny thing is, I mean, for me, I was like, oh, I could do this by myself. I just don't have the time and energy. And then, this document that I have a team of people put together, I look at it and it's like, I could have not done this on my own.
Right.
Like this is insane, and I wouldn't have even known to do any of this or
hmm
how. So I mean, I think I could have gotten away with less, but yeah, the idea that I can do everything if given the time is very false. Um,
hmm Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, standing in my own way and creating my own problems. Uh, it's funny because I've had these jobs leading up to this, and I've always, gotten promotions, and every job has turned in to this crazy burnout job where I'm
hmm
doing it all the time, and how did it turn into this again with every employer? And then I start a business and I'm working in this crazy burnout capacity where I'm the only variable. And then
Right.
I kind of had to address that, like, oh, this has always been me.
Right.
The weird workaholic stuff, that's never been the job. And
Yeah.
so that was a very strange, that was a real strange slap to the face when I realized, like, oh,
Yeah.
I did not realize that was me.
Yeah. It's like when you actually have to face yourself, you're like, oh shit. Okay. Well, sorry for everybody else I blamed. I apologize.
Yep.
Please make amends. Moving forward, I will try not to do that. But you're yeah, it's just like you're just like, oh, this person this and this person that. And it's like, how do I keep ending up in this same situation over and over again? And then you finally meet yourself and you're like, that makes so much sense now.
Yep.
It's wild. It's truly a wild experience. And I just highly encourage that if somebody hasn't done it to just do it. It's going to make your life easier, I promise. In the long run, because at first it's hard. But anyway, I think you really have to like know yourself to run a successful business. Because if you're hiding from yourself and you're trying to be something you're not, or barking up the wrong tree, it's like you're gonna just keep running into problems. And so I love that you met yourself. You had to, you know, face yourself and own that because I think it's you might not want to at first, but I think, yeah, that self ownership and just being like, yeah, this is who I am. And this is something I need to be aware of. And it's not anybody else's problem but mine. And we're going to do what we can to not make this a problem anymore.
Right.
So that's good. And seems, I mean, from the outside looking in, it seems like things are going really well. And you keep adding, classes and all this cool stuff, more different types of fabric and options for shoppers. So,
Yeah, and you know, it's it's so easy because I do love it so much.
mhm,
Um, and I think that's yeah, that's the thing. I've never lost any passion for sewing at any point in my life or in this endeavor, you know,
yeah,
leaving upholstery and being like, I hate it. It's like, yeah, but still sewing, right? Like we're still only doing that.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, and getting to be a resource for other people is super rewarding. That's kind of something I maybe didn't go into this expecting,
mhm,
like how much purpose I feel in life now compared to like what I've ever been doing.
yeah,
Um, where it's turned from like me trying to make these objects and like my skill and craftsmanship is this center point of my life to being, hey, I'm a resource for this community and I'm so excited about your project and helping you like to reach whatever goal you're after. Like that just feels so much better. Um,
Yeah.
makes me well, and also just like getting to plan a project with someone and then do none of the work, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly.
it's uh, but yeah, also I'd say like the other great joy is when someone new comes in
Mm.
and they, walk up and they're like, "Oh my God, I love all this fabric so much." And it's like you're discovering one of my favorite designers for the first time and it's happening right in front of me and I'm
Yes.
about to go full nerd on you. Uh like that's the other thing that's just like, oh God, this is the most rewarding thing ever.
Yeah.
Um and so yeah, so then trying to work to be uh of better service to the community all the time is
Mm.
it's work, but it feels so effortless because I'm so into it. It's like, okay, like Joanne's is gone, so what does the community need now? Like how do I do that? And how do I do it in a way that still is true to myself but works for
Mhm.
everybody else so
Mhm.
I can still enjoy what I'm doing. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just it's a mess of very interesting problems and trying to keep people happy and yeah, I love it. I mean, this is very, very truly what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, and I can feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And yeah, when it's like when you're still enjoying it and like the problems that arise, they probably don't feel that big. I think when you're kind of not in the right space or like you feel like you just don't feel right where you're at. It's like everything seems like blown out of proportion and way bigger and way more of an issue. Whereas when you're doing something that you love, it's like, oh, I can fix this. Like this is a problem I'm willing to put the energy towards. And I think to me, that's how I know like I'm in the right spot is when I actually care to like put the energy towards fixing a problem or finding a solution. I don't know how if you feel similar in that way, like it's just kind of keeps speaking to the fact that you're like where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not without a dark night here and there.
Sure, sure, sure.
Um, I like when the shop is open and I'm talking to customers and I'm talking about the only thing I've ever, you know,
Yeah.
really been interested in, like my life is great, but it's that end of day when I have to
Mm,
be a business owner and kind of like work through stuff that it's like, oh
yeah.
no, like what have I done? Because I
Yeah.
am still in that, I'm still in that uncertainty phase where
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, this, you know,
Hmm.
I've kept it going this long, but that doesn't mean that there's not, you know, just one more problem that could level me.
Right.
Uh,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. I can't ever get too comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. I need that like little bit of doubt in your mind to just like keep you on your toes so that you're like ready for it or ready for anything. But then that thing never happens, like knock on wood. So knock on my desk. Because you're right, it is. It's like at the end of the day, you're like, okay, is this sustainable? Is this something that's gonna have longevity? Like, what does that look like? And you can get kind of lost in that future thinking of like, how do I make sure that this stays, you know,
Yeah,
moving forward? But it looks different every day. So the answer might be different every single day.
absolutely.
Yeah. How I don't know if you even want to go here. And so if you don't want to, we don't have to, but I just am so stressed for my own self about what the tariffs are going to do to our beloved community? And is like, yeah, is that something that you've already had to look at and experience?
Yeah. Most of my suppliers and distributors have already reached out and kind of given me some kind of idea
Okay.
of what I should expect.
Okay.
Um, and it's not as dire as I think it's being made out to be, or I mean, I think there's maybe more fear than is necessary. But that
Yeah,
I don't want to say that either.
I
Um,
know. It's enticing.
but because I look at the percent increases, um, and so far it's always been under like a 10% increase
Mm,
per, yard of fabric. And so I look at that and it's like, okay, you know, if my price for a yard of fabric has to go up $1,
hmm.
that isn't probably going to be a huge thing for most of my customers.
Sure.
It's like, okay, if a quilt top takes you 5 yards, now it's $5 more.
Hmm.
That's not horrible when you look at it that way.
Sure.
Um, but looking at the money I have in my business now goes 7% less far than it used to.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it's like, oh, right, I'm not talking about a yard of fabric. I am talking about bolts and bolts and bolts that make up my store. And then that
Right.
little bit is suddenly significant in what my money does now.
Right.
Um, but yeah, and then I think there's also the question of, will people try to profit off of the tariffs, as
Hmm.
in, you paid this much, are you going to double that extra amount when you sell it to my distributor, and are they going to double that amount when they sell it to me?
Right.
Or did you pay this extra amount and we're just going to push it straight through,
Yeah.
never using a percent increase like we do with the rest of the cost of goods?
Right.
um and I think that'll be a big one. Uh Jason Yenter sent out an email and he was like, hey, for our fabric, you are going to pay the exact tariff we pay. And we suggest that you divide that up and charge it to your customer without this increase. So there's already people out there saying like, hey, this
Yeah.
is how we're going to do it. And other places are like, here's the percent increase. And it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
then the tariff is just lost in that. It's just an amount of money increased.
Right.
So I don't know. I wish I were a little better educated on the subject, but that's kind of about what I feel like I know now.
Yeah. Well, and I think, it's like we know it's going to happen. We know it's already people are the manufacturers and distributors are experiencing it as they're bringing goods in. And I think because people are doing it differently, like instead of just directly passing on what the extra cost, or if they're doing a percentage, it's like, I think it would be easier to process and deal with if it was like a consensus across the board, like this is how we're going to handle it. And so I think
Mhm.
the varied kind of responses that companies are having to it makes it a little trickier, because then it's like now you have to adjust for what your different distributors are going to be doing in terms of a percentage, or a straight across charge. Like I think if they're smart, they won't try to mark it up, because I think that's people aren't going to be able, it's not accessible, right? It's already
Yep.
expensive. It's already more
Yep.
expensive than a lot of other fabric. So then to purposefully make it more expensive so that you can make more money. It's like, not you, I'm saying the distributors and like
Right.
manufacturers on their end. It's like, we're already going to have to eat this cost, and it's already going to impact, like you said, the how far your business dollars can go. It's like, what is that? Is every small shop going to just end up having to go out of business eventually because of it? Or, are some manufacturers going to just see less production because people aren't ordering their fabric anymore because they've upcharged? Like, there's just like all these questions swirling in my head constantly. So I'm always just like, if people are willing to talk about it, I love to pick people's brains about what they're thinking about it and what they're gonna, what the response might be, because I don't provide a lot. I'm mostly just a quilt finishing service. Like, I long
Hmm.
arm, I do binding, I have batting, and I have, for now, I do have the Shannon Fabrics Minky for backing if people want to buy it from me. And like, I have the cute little finishing tags from Kylie and the Machine, and
Hmm.
it's like all that is going to change or could potentially change. So it's like, what does that end up looking like, even for me, who I don't have a shop full of fabrics? And so anyway, thank you for sharing that, because I know some people are very touchy about the subject, but it's going to impact
Well,
all of us. So
yeah, I just think there's so much unknown that, you know, I've kind of just taken the stance of kind of wait and see. Like, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna borrow trouble. I'm just gonna wait for things to happen and react
yeah,
because I have to maintain my sanity in this current moment.
right.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of with you. I'm like, I'll just wait. And if it just ends up that like I don't order that thing anymore, which I did just get an email from Kylie and the Machine saying like, hey, if you want to order stuff before this date, do it right now, and here's free shipping. And they're trying to kind of give their customer, their stockists, like a heads up of what it's going to look like so that you can kind of plan accordingly. But I mean, they're coming from Australia, so that's like a whole other thing too. But
yeah,
like, from China, they're distributed from China, and then they are made in China, distributed from Australia, kind of thing. It's like a big deal. But anyway, so yeah, it's just kind of like, well, that's one thing. It's like, now I know what I need to do. I'm either gonna make a huge order in this next week, or I'm just gonna say I've got what I've got, and we'll see what happens in the next year or so. And um, yeah, anyway, it's just interesting. And yeah, again, I'm like you. I'm like, I don't want to borrow trouble and start making decisions and changing things all of a sudden just because there might be a change coming up. But like, just staying abreast of like the changes that other companies are making and what's going on. And I don't know. I don't know.
yeah. Well, and the other thing is my business model has always kind of been to uh, get as much fabric in and out of here as possible.
Hmm.
Like, I just want the newest stuff in and I get the old stuff out, and I do whatever I have to make that turn real fast. I do sales. I don't hyper fixate on my margins. It's just
Mm.
about getting stuff in and out.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I might have to reconsider that because the stock, the old stock that I have might be considerably cheaper than the new stock I would have to bring in to replace it. So this,
Right.
like, just firing stuff through, uh, that's probably something I'm gonna have to rethink
Yeah.
if everything goes up too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, I mean, I like the concept because I think sometimes bolts just sit and get stagnant, and because they're not selling, shops don't bring new stuff in. And it's like, well, if your stock isn't fresh, nobody's going to want to buy anything.
Yeah,
So I think that's smart. But yeah, again, because everything could be changing, and cost wise, like, it might not be the most effective, which is also a bummer, because you're like, I want to be this person in this community. I want to be the shop that's like this. It
yeah,
makes it tricky to kind of stay true to those ambitions that you have for yourself and for your business. But hopefully it can work out in some fashion to continue that for you, because I think it's a good model and seems to be working great for you. So,
Yeah, and I mean, so much of this is that I also want the new stuff
right.
for
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
for myself and my customers. I would like to be able to bring in whatever's new and cool. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic that this will not be utterly devastating.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to hold our breath maybe a little, cross our fingers.
Of
But yeah. Well, yeah. Again, thank you for talking about it with me because I know some
course.
people get a little itchy about the topic. But so you mentioned, you want fabric in, fabric out kind of thing. And so I guess like, yeah, what's like the niche that you're looking to fill with your shop? Because obviously every shop has like an idea of like, this is going to be my thing. And so beyond that, is there anything else that you really wanted to bring into your community of quilt shops around Portland?
Well, overwhelmingly, my stock is based around what I couldn't find, things
Okay.
that I wanted that I couldn't get. Um, and I think I'm not the most typical shop owner.
Hmm.
Um, and my individual taste dictates what I buy. And I think just by kind of being a guy in a younger demographic, like my taste is just different.
Hmm.
And that helps me kind of have my own thing.
Yeah.
But I mean that's the reality is that none of the owners are the same, and that's how we can all exist is that we all have different things that we will or won't carry or want to have. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, a lot of it is designers that I wanted that I didn't see in other stores.
Mm.
Um, but then it's, you know, there also has to be some kind of balance where I'm not just shopping for myself because I do serve an entire area and
Yeah.
and I'm part of my demographic and I have to always uh remind people about that when they talk about quilting
Yeah.
is that it's like, hey, I'm also part of this demographic.
Right.
Um, but so so to keep myself from not just shopping for myself, uh, I have a couple close friends that I also am shopping for
Mm.
um, when I bring in fabrics, and I'm kind of figuring out what they want and can't get
Hmm.
um, because the three of us have very different tastes from each other, and yeah, and so I use that. It's like, oh God, I I wouldn't buy this fabric, but it's got Erica written all over it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I think just trying to have variety and trying to not just and trying to also have what other people don't have is my method. I'm just trying to like fill out the missing spots.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense because I think, you know, stores they might know they have the gaps, but they're like, I'm not gonna venture into that space, and that's okay. And so, but then it leaves room for, shops like you to come in and be like, well, I'll carry that, like I'll do that. I couldn't, that's what I wanted from your shop and couldn't find it, but I'll step in and fill that gap. And I think it takes that, because again, back to what we said before, like one store can't carry everything all at
Right.
once because it's just not possible. And some try and they're very overwhelmed to shop in, but it's nicer to go into a store that has like a focus and you're like, okay, this feels like I know what I can get here, and I know what I can get over there, and I know what I can get over there. And it helps spread the love among the community too. It's not just one person monopolizing a whole community, but giving all of you guys like an equal opportunity to serve the people who want to come shop with you. So that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, but I guess maybe like another way I could have or should have answered that question is I definitely am the place. I do very saturated, very bold is also, it's all very modern, but
Yeah.
definitely people come in here and they're like, oh, these are such bright fabrics. And it's like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm not excited by the fabric itself, like how could I be excited to work with it? Um,
Right.
and
Exactly.
when I opened up, I initially got some criticism from customers who were like, yeah, but you can't have no neutrals.
You're like, yes,
Uh,
I can.
uh, and I conceded that, like, it's like, yeah, I guess maybe there should be something in here that doesn't look like it was picked by an 8-year-old. Uh,
Yeah, that's so funny. You know what? I don't love neutrals either, so it's fine. Like, oh, that's cute, I guess. But when I pick fabrics, I'm like, no, I want all the prints. Like, I want it to be, I mean, this quilt behind me, there's nothing in it that is neutral. It's all Tula prints. There's nothing that's not a saturated print in it. So I'm like, yeah, that's just, I like it. That's how I like my quilts. And so it's fun to be in environments where that feels nurtured and it's not just like, oh, here's like a bunch of gray batik. And I'm like, I'm out of here. I can't shop here. This is boring. But,
yeah,
teach their own, I guess.
right.
But, well, that's so fun. I seriously am looking forward to my next trip to Portland so I can come find you because I love shopping and there's always fun, cool stuff that is in Portland that's not here in Boise. So it's always a fun adventure to shop around and find new stuff. So that's
Well,
exciting.
yeah, I'll look forward to it.
Yeah. And so if people don't know where to find you online, where can they get to you?
Where to find me online?
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, right. So pdxsolarium.com is the website.
Okay.
But I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and to a lesser degree, Blue Sky.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, PDX Solarium is my handle everywhere.
Perfect. Okay. Awesome. Well, I'll put links in the show notes so people can get to you and go check out your shop. And then before we wrap up here, do you have a tip or piece of advice that you would offer to our listeners? And it can be anything.
Um, you know what? Something I think about a lot, because I see it circulating the internet here and there. It's this this when men do it, it's an art. When women do it, it's a craft.
Mm,
Um, So I've been thinking about that a lot recently, and especially kind of with my art background, I've kind of battled with like, oh God, is what I'm doing art? It just is
yeah.
stupid. But I think the conclusion that I've come to is that it's arts and crafts, not arts or crafts.
Yeah.
Everything that you produce has a degree of artistry and a degree of craftsmanship. Your quilts are art,
Yeah.
and you know, you get to decide what level of artistry and what level of craftsmanship go into your makes. That's for you to decide. Um, I think we all probably got into this for the express, for the self-expression,
Hmm.
and then, the craftsmanship like improves over time, um, or it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the big conclusions I've come to recently is that no matter what, it's both, it's arts and craft.
Yeah. Oh, I love that because I think there is that kind of push and pull. It's like, well, that's just, you're just doing little crafts, like your little crafts. It's like, yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's crafty, but it's also, yeah, it's art. You're creating something new and beautiful to look at and experience. And don't sell yourself short because, like, there's no sense in it. Life's too short to get so nitpicky in the details of, calling it one thing or another or over defining it. It's like, just relax.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you so much. And hopefully some people find you that didn't know about you and can come shop your online store or come shop you locally if they're in the Portland area. And otherwise, I'm looking forward to seeing the growth of your shop and hopefully shop soon with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.